Good morning, everybody. Here I am again, and today I want to talk about the year 1938. I was there. I was 5 years old, enjoying life, chasing the butterflies in the garden, and I really did that. So my mom was, I was 5, so Mom was about 26. She was real young, and we was living in a little red house in Smith Holler, there in Appalachia. We were grandma up on one side, great-grandma on the other. One time our great-grandma come down to see us, and she was a little bitty stooped-over woman, walking with a cane. Bless her heart. And I was scared of her. She looked scary. She had this bonnet on her head, and I run and hid behind my mom, and I said, "Who is that?" She said, "This is your great-grandma." So then I got okay. But I want to tell you one thing that happened there that, there's probably not anybody alive that has seen, or maybe there is some. I'm alive. So far. Thank you, Jesus. Anyway, so I'm 5 years old, and we hear all this racket coming down the lane in front of our house. And me and Mom, we had a nice little front porch in that little red house. And it was just about a block from the little Assembly of God church where I would walk to Sunday school every Sunday morning by myself. I always liked going to church.
Hey, Mama. I don't feel
Whoops,
very good.
my TV just came on. My TV just came on. I just turned it off. Well, you know what? I'm not fancy. I just do what I do. I'm not going to... I looked on the internet what all you could do to do lighting and all that kind of stuff. So I ordered a couple of little lights and stuff, and $27, $15. And so I looked at them and I said, nah, I'm not going to fool with it. Too much aggravation. So I didn't. I just do it right here with my iPad. I'm keeping it simple. And here comes my cat. She'll probably be over here in a minute. Well, anyway, back to 1938 when I was 5 years old. And we heard all this racket coming up the road, and we was out on the front porch. We spent a lot of time there because we was in the summertime. And there was a bunch of men. And they had on white sheets. And they had on white things on their head. You couldn't see their face. Mom says, "Get in the house. Get in the house quick." So we got in the house real quick. They were hollering and carrying on. And they coming on. And you know what? They had somebody that had black all over him except for his face. And tar. It was the Ku Klux Klan. Mom says, "That's the Ku Klux Klan, and I know who that man is, and they're punishing him." And I was just 5 years old, and I said, "They're punishing him?" She said, "Yes, when you do something that they don't like, they'll ride you on a rail and put tar and feathers on you. And they're taking him to the graveyard, and they'll take him up there and leave him." And the graveyard was up behind our house. And so they came by our house, and we peeked through the window to watch them. And Mom knew him, and I said, "Well, reckon what he did?" And Mom says, "Well, I heard he mistreated some woman." And I don't remember exactly if he got a woman pregnant and didn't marry her or if he beat her. I don't remember what happened. But the Ku Klux Klan was taking care of it that morning. I bet he never did it again, whatever it was. Anyway, that was a memory that I can still see. And then I have another memory. Daddy had a model Ford, which had a bumper seat in the back. You could raise the lid and sit in the back when you raised like the trunk. And he said, "We're going fishing." We're going fishing? I had never been fishing with my daddy. I thought, I ought to fix that. That would be interesting. So I got in the car with him, the old A-model Ford, and we went fishing. We went driving until we found a river. He said, "Now we're going to fish." I said, "How are you going to fish? You don't even have a fishing pole." He said, "Watch this." Now I realized my daddy was probably about 29 years old. He was some older than Mom. He got out of the car and he said, "Now you stand way back there." I said, "Okay." I minded pretty good most of the time, sometimes. So I did what he said. And you know what? He pulled out a stick of dynamite. I didn't know what it was. I was just 5 years old. And he struck a match. And he stuck it to that stick of dynamite. And he throwed it right into the middle of the river. He said, don't you ever tell anybody I did this. Well, I'm telling it now. It's too late. You can't prosecute him. But he said, this is against the law, but we're going to have fish. I couldn't believe it. Fish just came up everywhere. Big fish, little fish, all kinds of fish. Daddy just started grabbing them and loading them in the back of the trunk of the car. We had fish. Of course, back then we didn't have a lot of food. But that fish came in handy for Grandpa and Grandma's family. And we took them some. And we kept some. And that really happened when I was 5 years old. So Daddy came home one day and he says, I got a job. Mom said, you got a job? Because jobs were scarce. You couldn't find a job. I mean, it was 1938. So he said, yes, I got a job with a company, and we'll be moving to the Skyline Drive in North Carolina, where they're building the Skyline Drive, and I'm going to be a grease monkey. So he loaded us in the car, and I said, well, what about my cat, Daddy? You know I love cats, and I loved cats when I was little, and I had one called Big Bum. He just had 3 legs. Daddy says, we're taking him with us. Oh, I was a happy girl. We was taking Big Bum with us. He was a big tomcat, big gray one. And so he loaded him in a cardboard box. And I think he might have lasted till we got to Bristol. I don't know. But when we got, maybe it was Cumberland Gap, but I believe it was Cumberland Gap. So we got out of the car, and there was a store, like a jot-em-down store. They had just everything. And it was late in the year, about November, I guess. I'm just guessing. Because Mom and Dad are not here to ask. They're gone. Just my 5-year-old memory, which ain't bad, considering I'm 90. Woo! I just enjoy life. I had so much fun at the Y this morning. I'll have to tell you about that in a minute. But right now, so Daddy went into this jot-em-down store. And so he went in, and he came out with a box. He said, this is for you, Clarine. My name is Clarine. Lois Baird-Rice, Clarine. And so anyway, now it's Lois Baird-Rice, Clarine. Oh, darn. What did I say? Well, anyhow, James calls me Claire. Number 3 is a doll. We was at the Y this morning. And one of the men that walks all the time there called Steve. And he said I could put this on if I wanted to. He just wears shorts all the time. It don't matter how cold it is. He wears shorts. So James mentioned to me, he said, you reckon Steve has got any pants? I said, that's none of your business. So when Steve came around, because he's a fast walker, him and his wife, I said, you know what James said? He said he wondered if you had any pants. So when Steve caught up with number 3, he said, I do have pants. So I told Steve later, I'm going to put that on YouTube, Steve. I think it's funny. I said, one thing I noticed about you, Steve, you are coordinated. He wears gray at the top. His shorts is gray. His shoes are gray. He just looks good. So I told him, I said, you look good most of the time. Well, really all the time. I said, does your wife help you coordinate? He said, sometimes, but I do most of it myself. I said, I'm going to put this on YouTube. He said, go ahead, I don't care. So here it is. Now, back to that box that my daddy handed me. It had a doll baby in it, and its eyes went up and down. I had never seen a doll baby that its eyes went up and down. It was beautiful, beautiful, just the right size for a 5-year-old to love. And I loved that doll. I really loved it, and I kept it for a long time. So anyway, at the Y this morning as we was walking, I just shared that I'm going to put that on YouTube, and he said I could. But when I was 5 years old and we moved on to the Skyline Drive, and I had to go to school from there, Daddy had to drive me out of the mountains to go to school. And I started late, so I couldn't start school till I was 7. Everybody else was ahead of me. I should have started at 6. Well, anyway, I guess I'm about done with this wonderful story. What do you think? I hope I don't bore y'all to death. I'm not bored. But then it reminds me of the time my mom had sisters younger than her as well. They had 12 kids in her family, and she was the oldest, just like I'm the oldest of 9. So Mom had a little sister my age, and when we were 10 years old, we went to spend the night with them. And her name was Freddie, and she was deaf. So back in that time, you had to wear a hearing aid. You wore it on your chest and put it in your ear, and it was like a loudspeaker on your chest. And I was always a chatterbox. So anyway, we would go to bed at night, and I would talk, and Freddie would listen. And then she would get tired of it, and she'd say, now, I'm turning off my hearing aid. That was the end of me chattering. I just had to shut up. So I told James number 3 about that. I have heard him say a time or two to me, I am turning off my hearing aid. I should never have told him that. He uses it against me, doesn't he? But I love him anyway. He's a wonderful husband that God gave me, and I am so blessed with number 3. He increased my grocery allowance. You know, groceries went up. I am so happy. We needed that, though, and he did it. I like my grocery allowance. I can buy just about anything we need, and once in a while, I can buy a piece of steak. That's wonderful. And I know how to cook it in an iron skillet, or on the flame, or in the air fryer, or in the oven. I can fry all different kinds of ways. Because you know what, girls and boys? I'm a good cook. I love to cook. Well, I told yesterday on Neighbors how I made in the Instapot yesterday. Well, really, it's my air fryer ninja, which I just love. I made cabbage and smoked sausage and potatoes with carrots and cabbage. And you just only have to do it for like 1 minute. And when James came home, and he had him a bowl of it, he said, this is really good. It feels so good to please your number 3, which I do. I am so happy I can still cook and walk around and go do things, drive my car, go to Walmart. That's where I'm going now, back to the Walmart. So God bless y'all for looking. This probably went too long. I'm going to look at the minutes and see how long it is. Oh, my goodness. I went 12 minutes this morning. Yes, just like my Aunt Freddie said, Clarine, I'm turning off my hearing aid right now. Well, I'm going to close down right now and wish you a happy day. We're just enjoying it one day at a time. Y'all do the same with the help of the Lord. My prayer is for the Lord to bless you and keep you and go in the path that he would have you go because he loves you and I love you. Bye-bye.